I think we've got a rare bird here. From what I can deduce, I think this might be the only Amiga game ever to have 32 colors, a full screen parallax with sprites, and be 50 frames per second. But sadly, it never even came out. This is Blues Brothers Jukebox Adventure. It was supposed to come out in 1994 and looked like it was pretty much finished and reviewed in some magazines, but got canceled. And it wasn't until late last year when a demo of it was finally released. So here it is in motion, and right here is a good spot to show how quick it is. So if you ignore the record collectibles here, but focus on the real enemies, so this ball and chain and these two enemies here, and keep your eye on the frames per second, and I'm going to do it frame by frame. So watch, here we go. Every frame, 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 frame. So the screen moved every frame, the ball and chain, and both of the enemies. So I've been speaking a lot about screen sizes in the last few videos, and this says 360 by 212, but I think that's wrong, and we can ignore that. I took a screenshot in WinUAE, and it seems to be 288 by 194, and that includes this bottom HUD. So without that, it's 288 by 176. So the total resolution of 288 by 194 is pretty good for what it's able to accomplish. Something that's weird about the screen, though, is that you see the blue up here. I always figured that that was part of the screen, and it's like a double HUD. But if you put the DMA feature on, the bit planes only start below this light blue right here, all the way down to the bottom of the light blue. And when I took a screenshot in WinUAE, it didn't include this top light blue part. So I'm not really sure what's going on there. Let me know if you got a guess. It's maybe something to do with the fact that it was still unreleased and unfinished. The copper is even changing the color of it up here, but it's not part of the screen. So I've never seen anything like that before. So if you take all the bit planes off, you're left with the background sprite parallax. And see these pipes that are here, 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 and here? Well, they're not actually pipes, because if you take the sprites off, they're just copper bars that are in the background on color 0. So I love when they do that, when they make the copper bars appear like they're actually part of the artwork. If you look at this one here, when I switch it back, you can see it even goes over top of it, like it's securing the pipe. So yeah, it really even sells the illusion more. So let's take a look at these sprites one by one to take them off. So sprite 0 is 16 pixels across and 3 colors, and it's repeated 3 times across for the wall. But down here, it's the start of an attached sprite, which will be 15 colors. So if we put on sprite 1, you get this full record, and then you get 3 more parts of the wall that are repeated. But those are only 3 colors. Then sprite 2 is more wall. Sprite 3 is more wall and finishes off the player here. Sprite 4 is more wall, repeated 3 times. Sprite 5 finishes off the wall and finishes off the record attached down here. So it's cool how they've used 3 color sprites up here and then changed them to attach 15 color sprites down here. And then sprites 6 and 7 are not used on the top, but at the bottom, they're John Belushi. So you've got Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi. So this game, I forgot to mention, is also 2 players simultaneous. So if we check out the palette visualizer, you'll see that, yeah, it's 32 colors up here. And then down here, I think it's only 2 colors, 1 bit plane. And if we look back to the wall sprites again, take a look at those colors. And then when you go to the palette visualizer, these 3 colors would be sprite 0 and 1. These 3 colors here would be sprite 2 and 3. And then these 3 colors would be sprite 4 and 5. So that's one problem that we talked about in the Trap Runner video, is that if you have a 32 color game and you're using 3 color sprites, then it can take up a lot of palette slots. So you see these are sort of repeated. I think they've changed them just slightly, but they're pretty much the same. You can also use these brown colors for the foreground, which they do, but it doesn't really take full advantage of all 32 colors. But you do get this transparent one, they switch to yellow, and this red one, and then these ones down here. So you do get quite a few extra colors than just 16. And I think it's pretty awesome what they did here with just 2 colors for the HUD. So it's got this blue color, color 0, that they changed right here with the copper. And then it's got color 1 over here, which they also changed with the copper, and it's green to red. But the really clever thing is that if you take the palette visualizer off, you can see that they've just made these words and numbers all the green copperized, and then down here, the red copperized. So this whole very colorful HUD is only 2 colors and sprites. So what else can we see with the copper visualizer? We've got BBLCon 0 5200, so 5 bit planes. And then we can see the multiplexing of the sprites. So it goes sprite 0 position, sprite 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then it repeats again, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that goes all the way across the screen, and each of those 16 pixel wide sprite strips are repeated 3 times each. So that would be 18 times 16, so 288 across, which is what the screen is. Another thing I hadn't seen before is that sometimes they do change color 0 all the way down the screen and keep it black, and they'll do it a few times. But here they do it 10 times, all color 0 black, before they get to the real one here where they've actually changed the colors. So again, if any coders might know the reason for that, please let me know in the comments. I always love to learn new stuff because I'm far from an expert. If we throw on the blitter visualizer, you can see it blits your player and all the collectibles and enemies and your shots. You can also see the tiles being blit in on the right side of the screen and the left side of the screen. And then if you jump at the top, now, full disclosure, I just realized that sometimes the frame rate isn't perfect. When you're going up and down the screen, sometimes it switches to 25 frames per second. So frame, 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 all 50, 50, 50, 50, 50. But right there, 25, 50, 50. So yeah, it's not perfect, but it's pretty consistent at 50 frames per second. So this next level is pretty interesting how they've done the sprite parallax. They put it all into the foreground. That looks pretty cool. So if we take all the bit planes off, we're left with just the copper sky, which they don't even use in this level. So sprite 0 is 3 16 pixel wide sections of 3 color sprites, just like in the first level. And then sprite 1 is 3 more, sprite 2, 3, 4, and 5. That covers the whole 288 pixels. And the fun thing is if you put on the sprite visualizer, it looks really cool. Look at that. So if you stop it right here, you can see sprite 0, 1, 2, 2, 3, so on, all the way across. So here's the third and final background type in the demo. And it's got some nice parallax here. If we take the bit planes off, then we've got the sprites back here. This time they're only about half the screen height though. With the sprites off too, you can just see the copper background. And again, it kind of contributes to the art because if you put the sprites on, you can see that the copper bars sort of make up the dark green forest floor here. And then just kind of like Kid Chaos, they make it look like there's flowers and everything in the grass, but it's just transparent and shows through to the copper. So that's really clever. Here's sprite 0 repeated 3 times, sprite 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, just like all the other levels. So when you're up here, for instance, and you can see the quote unquote flower, then there's 85 colors on the screen. So pretty good for OCS, ECS. So speaking of OCS, ECS, I forgot to mention that if you want to try out the demo, that I could only get it to work with ECS, so 1 megabyte chip, the A500 Plus or the Amiga 600. One of the advertisements that came out when the game was supposed to be released said Amiga 500, 600, 1200. So it didn't say anything about ECS then, so it might just be the demo that they sent out that required extra memory. But yeah, this game was quite technically impressive, and it's too bad it didn't come out. It did come out for the Super Nintendo and some other systems, but the Amiga version never saw the light of day. And it's good proof to show that a 32 color game with full screen sprite parallax can maintain a pretty consistent 50 frames per second. At least in single player mode, I never got to try 2 players, so that would be an extra player to blit and extra shots to blitz. So hopefully maybe one day the whole game will be leaked and we can try that. So hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks so much for watching. Please like and subscribe and comment if you haven't. And until next time, take care.